Visual communication begins with visual thinking. It is a form of visual literacy. An infographic contains a selection of information on a specific topic organized in a visual framework. But how do you actually get there? What tools can you use? In order to translate plain text into a visual shape in a visual language, you will need to make the information blocks visual. The best way is to make them literally visible. This starts with visual thinking, making sense of information by using a visual display of information bytes and putting them in a visually organized format. I'd like to point out an important distinction from the book Making Thinking Visible by Ron Richard and others at Harvard's Education School. Thinking about is content, the information we lawyers need to give to our users. Thinking with equals the tools we use to organize our thinking, to organize our information, mental models, thinking models. This is what we need to redesign our information. We work at the meta level of information. The first tool is to create a mock-up with sticky notes. How to do this? Take the original information, print it on a sheet of paper. 1. Highlight, cluster and chunk to identify the key structure, the key topics, the key terms, and the corresponding chunks of information. 2. Create the movable elements. You can either cut these out and tape them on sticky notes. If you want to get fancy, you can use different colors of sticky notes and shapes to use as a color code or shape code to label various categories and levels of information. Or write keywords with marker on the sticky notes. You could also do this on a PowerPoint slide as a worksheet. 3. Now start to puzzle and regroup the information in a user-friendly logic that brings more clarity and more practicality to the information. See if you can find a more logic flow of the information. You might, for example, recognize a time sequence in the information from step 1 to step 5 that can be made visible by how you organize the sticky notes on your paper or whiteboard. 4. Take a picture of the display. 5. Try it again in a different arrangement. What makes more sense for what you're trying to communicate to your user? The second visual thinking tool is mind mapping. You can test this with the same information or with different information. An easy way to start with mind mapping, if you've never done it, is to make a to-do list. Mind mapping was developed by Tony Buzan, but goes back to early visual note takers such as Leonardo da Vinci. Instead of linear note taking, mind mapping works with associations, more like popcorn in our mind. You keep notes as topics and associations come up, starting from the center and branching outwards. Mind maps combine words, images, and colors to structure the information. There's an infinite variety of online mind mapping software available, including free apps for your phone. It's not just a visual thinking tool, but also a creative thinking tool, a productivity tool, a project management, and a knowledge management tool. If you're interested, you can pause here and take a look at some of these resources about mind mapping for lawyers and a few software apps to try. You will also find these links in the workbook. As our last visual thinking tool, we will look at graphic organizers. These are empty diagram templates used in K-12 education that have inspired a lot of the method I've developed for visual language for lawyers. As the name of the concept gives away, it's a tool to graphically organize information, research, insights, etc. Many of these are familiar formats such as Venn diagrams, flowcharts, and storyboards. To practice with the 3 thinking tools that you learned about in this lesson, take 20 minutes to practice with each tool, an hour in total if you do them all. The workbook has more detailed instructions, but basically you will pick a topic from your own legal practice and will use the visual thinking tools to organize the information visually. It may seem tedious now since you're already an expert in the information, yet taking this step will help you to look differently at the legal text and transform it from the inside out into accessible visual materials for your clients, your audience. Remember, you don't learn cooking by reading the book. So far, you've seen examples of legal infographics before and after their makeover to set the vision. You've learned about different methods of visual thinking to build the mindset. Now it's time to move on to the actual skill set, the design process. In this basics course, we will teach a 3-step method from plain text to a legal infographic.